Talk about a crusher. Yes! Oh!
Are you kidding me?
And gone!
Welcome back to the Schoolyard Sports podcast. I'm the host of this podcast, Lane Frank. We're now at episode 218. Yes, we are 218 episodes through, and summer is here, everybody. The first episode of the Schoolyard Sports Summer is here in the New York studio, so let's get into it. We're going to be talking about the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to talk about that legendary Roland Garros final between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. We're going to talk about how college players can be directly paid by their schools now. We're going to be talking a little bit about the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals, where the Florida Panthers are up 2-1 on the Edmonton Oilers, and so much more. So stay tuned for an action-packed Summer Smash episode 218. Let's hop into it. Let's start off episode 218, how we always do, with our headlines in the NBA. The only thing to talk about in the NBA, because I don't want to talk about free agency, I don't want to talk about the draft yet. I'm going to wait off on that for the NBA Finals. I think it's kind of disrespectful for sites like ESPN to have the main story when you go to NBA and ESPN be about the draft. Same with the NHL. It's about the draft. I want to hear about the finals. I want to hear what people are saying about Thunder versus Indiana. I want to hear what people are saying about Edmonton versus Florida. I could care less about when Cooper Flag is going to meet with the Mavericks or when Giannis is going to request a trade. I want to talk about this finals right now. The season currently going on. Because isn't the end goal always a championship? So let's start off and only talk about the NBA Finals in these headlines right now for the NBA. And it's tied at 1 apiece. Tyrese Halliburton does his devil magic in Game 1 and gets it done. And he's one of the most clutch players in the NBA right now. He beat the clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson, in that conference finals, made it over to the finals, has 4 buzzer beaters or game winners, essentially, in this NBA playoffs run. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a LeBron James type run. It's a Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan type of run right here from Tyrese Halliburton, and you can never expect it from a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, yet he's doing it. But on the other side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came up in Game 2, played great. Everybody stepped up for him. The dynamic duo of Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein is stepping up right there. Jalen Williams is playing like an all-star, which he is. Alex Caruso talked to him a little bit about on the Schoolyard Sports Instagram earlier this week. Go check that out at Schoolyard Sports for daily post. How he's the most valuable role player in the NBA after, once being the biggest meme in the NBA. So I'm excited for the rest of this series, and we're going to break it down a little bit more later in the episode. But that's part of the headlines in the NBA. In the MLB, the number 1 prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony, has been called up to the Boston Red Sox. Talk a little bit more about Roman Anthony later in the episode, but in his debut, 0 for 4, it's okay. We all struggle in our debuts, but did have an RBI. Key thing right there. Another thing in the MLB, my New York Mets are on fire, everybody. They have 42 wins. They're playing great baseball. Yes, they play some easy teams, but also you're playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. You split with them twice. I think the Mets probably should have won that second series instead of splitting it, but leave things as is. These are the 2 best teams in the National League. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But when you switch things over to the AL, you got the Detroit Tigers, and they're on fire, everybody. They have the best record in the MLB. They've got awesome pitching from Terry Skubal, awesome hitting from guys like Javi Baez, who at one point was an afterthought after being a superstar at one point. He's batting .275 now. They've got Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, a guy who everybody thought was an afterthought, Riley Green, a bunch of more stars on this Tigers team, and that's why they're the best team in the MLB. Now, a team that definitely isn't the best team in the MLB, the Colorado Rockies. They have 12 wins in the season. Hooray! They have 12 wins. But they're in world trouble. They have so many issues on this team. And it's not just their ballpark. It's the way they're structured. They pick a guy, Chase Dollander, in the MLB draft in the top 5 2 years ago. He can't even do anything in the major leagues. It's a struggle for them. I don't know why they're taking pitchers in the MLB draft, because no pitcher. You could put Jacob deGrom in his prime at Coors Field. I don't know if he could do well. So that's my take right there on the Colorado Rockies. They are stuck in a world of trouble. That's about for the news in MLB. Let's switch things over to the NHL to close out our headlines. The Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers. I'm not a big hockey guy, but this series obviously has my interest, being the Stanley Cup Finals, and boy, it has not disappointed. Game 1 going to double overtime. Game 2 just going to regular overtime. Game 3, Florida Panthers blow them out. But so much scoring in this series. I mean, all 3 games, there have been goals within the first 2 minutes. That's incredible right there. I think we had 7 goals in the first 13 minutes in Game 2. I mean, it's just a great series. Rematch of last year, which went 7 games. Will this one go 7 games? Leave your answer in the comments. That's about for the headlines in sports this week. There is no reason for anybody to play tennis outside of Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. That's the take of the week. Nobody in the world can compete with these guys. These are the two best players in the world. But without a doubt, for the next 15 years, and I don't think anybody can compete with them. You have the Lorenzo Mussettis, the Ben Sheltons, the other stars of the world, maybe the Andrei Rublevs, the Alexander Zverevs, the guys who think they compete with them. Yeah, maybe in a Masters 1000, never in a Grand Slam. There may be an occasional slip-up from these guys when Jannik Sinner lost the French Open in 2022 to David Altmaier, a big upset, when Carlos Alcaraz losing the US Open in straight sets to Botic van Zanslop from Netherlands. But I still think these top two guys are never going to lose in these Grand Slams, unless it's to each other. They're incredible. For the next 15 years, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner will be known as the Big Two. There was a Big Three for a long time. Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. But eventually, those Big Three got old, and new stars came in. And these are the new stars, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. But when that Big Three had their reign, nobody could touch them. Never. Maybe an occasional Andy Murray at Wimbledon. But in the grand scheme of things, every Grand Slam won in their time frame, that 20-year period, was really only won by Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer. Now, I don't think we have a Big Three right now. I think we have a Big Two. I don't think Taylor Fritz can touch Jannik Sinner. I don't think any of those guys can touch Jannik Sinner or anybody else. I just threw Taylor Fritz out there as an example of a guy who can get far in tournaments, like how he did in the US Open in 2024, where he made the final against Jannik Sinner, but he can never win that match. I don't think anybody can win that match unless their name is Carlos Alcaraz. What a match we had on Sunday. One of the best Grand Slam finals of all time that showed that these are the two best tennis players in the world. There's no disputing that, and nobody can beat them in a Grand Slam for, I think, the next 15 years. That's Power for Take of the Week this week. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and get ready for Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Wimbledon final. Now, top 5. This week's top 5 is the top 5 countries in the world for soccer. We're coming up on the summer where we've got all the World Cup qualifiers. Who's going to make the World Cup in 2026 in the Meadowlands? Who's going to play in that championship in the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium summer 2026 to be crowned the World Cup champion? Now, we all love the 2022 World Cup. That was in the winter. This one's going to be in the summer. But we got to see who the top 5 countries are going to be. So here's my top 5 countries in the world to watch out for from now until the end of next year's World Cup. Let's hop into it. Number 5, Argentina. This might be controversial because they're number 1 in the FIFA rankings right now, but I think Argentina is number 5. They didn't win Copa America. Of course, they won the World Cup, which was great for them, but it's an aging roster. Angel Di Maria, Lionel Messi, Emiliano Martinez, all those guys are getting kind of old, and we don't know if Di Maria or if Messi are going to play in the World Cup. Now, there's still some good guys, some young guys, Julian Alvarez, McAllister, who could be good for Argentina in that 2026 World Cup, but I don't see them hosting that trophy or even getting third. 5, Argentina. 4, Brazil. Brazil still has a lot of great youth on this team. When you think of guys like Vini, Rodrigo, you slide in a few guys like Marquinhos in there, maybe even Ederson at goalie, or if it's Alisson. I love the trajectory of this team. Richarlison, he could be in there in the starting lineup, starting 11 for Brazil in that 2026 World Cup. He was great in the World Cup. 4, Brazil. Number 3, I'm going to go with England. Now, England, I think, has the most talent in the world, but they can never piece it together because they have so much talent, but how do you put it all together? I think if England had the right manager, which they will now after getting rid of Gareth Southgate, they could win it all in the World Cup. Now, I'm going to put them at number 3 for right now because we don't know what that starting 11 is going to look like. Because you have so many great strikers, so many great left wingers, so many great right wingers. You have a lot of good defenders. Goalie, not so much. Now, you've got a few goalies, Ramsdale, Jordan Pickford. Who's going to be the starting goalie? That's a debate. Who can do better? Because all these guys are so well-rounded, but you don't really have people who separate themselves from the pack outside of the Harry Kanes, the Bukayo Sakas, the Trent Alexander-Arnolds of the world. I don't know what this lap is going to look like for England, which is why I can only put them at number 3 for right now. Number 2, France, who came in second in the 2022 World Cup and who won the 2018 World Cup, comes in second on my list. And number 1, the best country in the world leading into the World Cup next year is Spain, everybody. The winners of Euro Cup, Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, a lot of great stars in this team. Rodri, if he's still in that World Cup roster. Gavi. I think Spain is the best team, best country, heading into that World Cup in 2026. That's about for my top 5 this week. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, did you know? This week's Did You Know, it's a great one. Did you know Manute Bol is the only player in NBA history to have more blocks in a season than points? And did it on multiple occasions. Did you know that? Leave it down in the comments. That's about for Did You Know this week. Now let me give you a spotlight on the number one prospect in baseball who just made his Red Sox debut, Roman Anthony, everybody. The youngest Red Sox player since Rafael Devers back in 2017. We all know how he turned out. An incredible player in that organization. Maybe Roman Anthony can be the same. But let me give you a little background on this guy. 2020 Gatorade Player of the Year, coming out of Florida, committed to Ole Miss, decided to leave them, go over to the MLB out of high school. He's 20 years old. He's an awesome outfielder. Second round pick. Interesting about that second round pick, it was the compensation second round pick they got for losing star pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez to free agency. So all the Red Sox fans that were crying about Eduardo Rodriguez leaving them might just have helped them out right there, because Eduardo Rodriguez compensation pick was used for Roman Anthony, who could be the next star in this Red Sox organization. Roman Anthony hit a 500-foot bomb in AAA last week on a grand slam pitch. He's incredible, and he's going to be great in the major leagues. Now, his debut didn't go so great, 0 for 4, but I thought I'd give you a little background and a spotlight on the number one prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's do a look back, everybody, at February 23rd, 2018. I call it the day college basketball got busted. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the day where college basketball conflicted with FBI. FBI, on February 23rd, 2018, released a probe that mentioned a bunch of college basketball stars, college basketball coaches that received payment for play. What's ironic about this is, this week, the House settlement went through to approve for schools to directly pay their athletes. Back on February 23rd, 2018, the FBI saw that as a big no-no. The main culprit was current Texas head coach and former Arizona head coach Sean Miller, who gave $100,000 to number one recruit in the country, best player in college basketball at the time, and later number one pick, DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton was in the middle of his freshman season at Arizona and got $100,000 to play at Arizona. But he wasn't the only name mentioned. Former number one overall pick in his rookie season in the NBA, Markelle Fultz, received $10,000 from Washington. Colin Sexton, who's at Alabama, he received payment. I mean, a lot of big names on this list. Miles Bridges, he was still in college at the time, Michigan State. He received payment to play at Michigan State. Josh Jackson, former top 5 overall pick, went to Kansas, went over to the Suns. Bam Adebayo, who we all love, at Kentucky. Dennis Smith Jr. to go over to North Carolina State. Kyle Kuzma at Utah. And the last name in there, Wendell Carter Jr. going to Duke. So about every big name in college basketball you could think of. Duke, Kentucky, Arizona, they were all tied up in this payment for play scheme. It was a big deal. Now, Sean Miller didn't get a huge suspension. He did get, a few show cause penalties, which probably caused him to take a few years off of college basketball, while there was a big break from him after Arizona, going over to Xavier. But now Sean Miller finds himself in the big game over at Texas again. But the day college basketball got busted. That's why I call this right here. When college basketball world got turned upside down, when payment for play became a big thing, when Nike got involved for paying players, Adidas, Jordan Brand, everything you can think of. And now we just call it legal, everybody. These payments seem like nothing to current day NIL, but that's how it was back in February 23rd, 2018. If you didn't know this, subscribe. If you did, give us a like. Still more to come on Schoolyard Sports, The Lane Frank, episode 218. Now, I want to give you my NBA Finals rundown, everybody. Let's predict games 3, 4, and 5. Now, this episode is coming out on Thursday. I'm filming this on Tuesday, so we're going to predict Game 3, which is happening Wednesday, Game 4, which is happening on Saturday, and Game 5, which is happening later the next week. So, let's see who wins. Maybe Indiana wins it in 5, maybe Thunder wins it in 5. But the first game, Game 3, in Indiana, the Pacers, they calm their nerves after a rough Game 2 in there. They win Game 3. Reminds me of that Nuggets-Thunder series. Nuggets stole Game 1 on the road. Thunder blew them out in Game 2. Nuggets came back home and ended up winning in that Game 3 right there at home. So I'm going to go with right here, Indiana Pacers to take that Game 3 at home against Oklahoma City. But in Game 4, Oklahoma City rounds the troops. They tied up in Game 4, head back 2-2 with home court advantage. And in Game 5, they win that one 3-2. I still think this series goes to 7 games, but I think that's how it goes. Indiana in Game 3, Oklahoma City in Game 4, and Oklahoma City again in Game 5. We're going to head back to Indiana for Game 6. Stay tuned for that. I can't wait for this rest of this NBA finals. It's a great finals of basketball. Now, the teams obviously aren't the most exciting teams, but the style of play, quality of play, it's up there of the best finals this century, this decade, for sure. That's about for NBA Finals Rundown. Stay tuned for more in episode 218. Now I want to give you my Schoolyard Sports Scream, everybody. And this week, I'm screaming on the MLB for their horrible anti-tanking rules. Now, their anti-tanking rules say that the Colorado Rockies, even though they have the worst record in MLB and could have the worst record in MLB history, cannot pick before pick 10 in next year's MLB draft because of their new anti-tanking rules that say if you pick in the top 6 for 2 years before, you cannot pick in the top 6 3 years in a row. That's ridiculous. That's blasphemous. That's why we shouldn't have a draft lottery in any sport, in my opinion. I'm sick of the lottery. How do you expect teams to get better if you don't have a lottery? Now, I'm not an all everybody needs to be fair opinion person here where everything needs to be fair. But I think you should at least help out these teams a little bit and let them get that number 1 pick. I would love to see a superstar come to Colorado one day, homegrown. I don't know if we'll ever see it. At least not in my lifetime, I haven't seen it. Maybe a Larry Walker. That wasn't my lifetime, though. I want to see a homegrown Colorado Rockies superstar, and I won't be able to see that without these anti-taking rules in place. Another thing, just let them trade the draft picks then. If you're going to have these stupid rules in there, let them trade these draft picks. That would get crazy out of hand because you already have prospects which, kind of function as your draft picks. But let them trade the draft picks, MLB, and let them pick higher than pick 10 if they pick in the top 6 the 2 years before. Get rid of this ridiculous 3 years in the top 6 rule is a no-no rule. I hate it. I hate the MLB tanking rules. MLB, you want to appeal to a younger audience? Let these teams be better. Get rid of these dumb rules in their MLB. I hate the MLB draft lottery, and it's going to stay like that opinion, until they fix this. That's about for my Schoolyard Sports Scream this week on Rob Manfred and the MLB. Now, at the buzzer. This week's At the Buzzer, I want to pay homage to one of my favorite sportscasters of all time, Lee Corso. I loved waking up every Saturday morning to see Lee Corso put on the headgear and make his analysis every week. And he's been doing it for such a long time. Way before I was even born, Lee Corso has been doing this. And they announced this week that his final college game day will be Ohio State versus Texas, week 1. Back where it all started. Now, you know me, a huge Michigan fan who can never stand to see the Brutus headgear pick by Lee Corso, but I think I could tolerate it in this one, Ohio State versus Texas. The first headgear pick he ever made was Ohio State, Brutus, and his last one will most definitely be Brutus as well in that week 1 game. What a great ending for Lee Corso in his career. College game day is still going to be a great show, but I had to pay homage to Lee Corso, the best broadcaster college football has ever seen. Now, question of the day. This week's question of the day is the Coaches Challenge good or bad for college basketball? They added it in this week, and I think it's interesting. College basketball, amateur. So maybe we should have some amateur calls in there at the end of games where a terrible foul call changes the outcome of something. We've always seen that in the Final Four, maybe last year in the Final Four, where there could have been a foul on the last play of the national championship game. Didn't get called. What about the Cooper Flag play in the Final Four? If John Shire had Coaches Challenge, Duke probably would end up winning that game. So how do you feel about the NBA's Coaches Challenge rule heading over to college basketball? Leave your thoughts in the comments. That's about for question day this week. That's about for Schoolyard Sports with Lane Frigg, episode 218. Thank you for tuning in. Follow Schoolyard Sports on Instagram at Schoolyard Sports for daily posts and analysis. Follow Schoolyard Sports on X at Schoolyard Sport. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review for the best sports content in the world. Be back next week, episode 219. Stay tuned.